Most people think that touching their toes is a reflection primarily of their hamstring flexibility, but that's not actually quite the full picture. Depending on you as an individual and what your limitations are, you can touch your toes with just one exercise. I'm going to show you how you can do that. In order for us to touch our toes, we need to have proper lumbopelvic rhythm, which is the relationship between hip mobility and the spine. As we move into the mid portion of a toe touch, where our hands get to around our mid shin level, we need to be an internal rotation of our hips. So this femur bone is going to slide back, and these bones right here are going to move into internal rotation as this sacrum bone right here nutates. Now, in order for us to get all the way down, we need to, at that end range, access external rotation. So these bones are going to move from a position of internal to external rotation. The sacrum bone is going to counter nutate or move backwards, and then we're going to have more external rotation at our femurs themselves. If your internal rotation is limited, chances are that you're going to have less than around 70 degrees of a straight leg raise. If you have limited external rotation, your hip flexion is going to be less than about 100 to 110 degrees. The reason people feel tightness in their hamstrings is often because their pelvis is forward and tilted into an anterior pelvic tilt. So they have tension in their hamstrings because the hamstrings attach on the pelvis. So if this pelvis gets pulled forward, then that's going to create tension because the muscle is actually in a lengthened position and the slack is taken out of it. In my beginner body restoration program, I use simple exercises that help improve the neutrality of the pelvis and restore these internal and external rotation ranges of motion, which should help people improve their toe touches and their straight leg raises and their hip flexion. This is the incline cross connect. To set up for this, we need a box or a bench or some sort of raised surface where we can keep the whole foot flat. And when we're in this final position here, we have the thigh about parallel with the floor, around that area. And we also need to have this back leg here in full hip extension. So there should be a pretty straight line from this shoulder all the way down to that heel right there. And once we're in this position right here, we're going to keep both feet flat. That's pretty important here. And then we're going to feel the inner foot arch of this foot right here. So the ball of the big toe, this first met head right here, and the inner heel. So now Trevor's going to take the opposite side elbow and try to connect it to the knee. If you can't get all the way there, that's okay. Just have the intention to do that and reach. And now he's going to feel some glute on this back leg right here. And on his front leg, he's going to feel those foot pressures. He might feel a little inner thigh, and that's okay. But overall, he's going to feel more abs on the side he's turning to. That would be his left side. Now he's going to exhale through his mouth. He's going to inhale. Gentle inhale through the nose, exhale, and when he exhales, he really wants to focus on feeling pressure right through there in that foot arch. The most common mistake here is that people are not going to have a straight line from this shoulder to this heel, so it'll be either too far forward or too far back. And if it's too far back, you're going to arch your back. It's not going to feel very good. So basically what I'm trying to say is use as straight of a line as you can. If you have to adjust a little bit, that's okay, but just make sure the intention is to have that straight line. The other thing is that this knee and foot are going to be too far off to the side, so then it's going to be kind of awkward because you're going to have this wide stance here. You want this knee and foot in line with the hip. This is rock back breathing. To set up for this, we're going to be in a quadruped position, meaning hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. And what we're going to do here is just get our hips towards our heels, and we're going to push with our hands and use that as a means to get our butt all the way to our heels, or as close as we can get to our heels while still feeling comfortable within our hips. So there should be no pinching in the front of our hips. If there is, try just relaxing and moving into that position. And really ultimately what it should look like in the end position is you should have a nice rounding of your back right here. We don't want any extension or anything like that. We want there to be a nice round here. So I'm going to have Trevor push into my hand a little bit here. There we go. Now he's got a nice round here. And he's going to feel, as he exhales through his mouth, get a full open mouth sigh exhale. For about 5 to 10 seconds, he's going to feel his side abs engage. Hold that tension as you close your mouth at the end of that exhale. Inhale through your nose, and you're going to feel all this open up like crazy, and it's going to feel really good. You just need to hold a slight bit of tension in those side abs, not a ton. All the while, you're just keeping these hands rested, making sure that you're not shrugging into there. Make sure your shoulders are staying out of your ears as much as they can. And that's pretty much it. One thing to keep in mind here is we don't want the toes to be pulled up here. We want them to be down like that. That's going to have more room for us to be able to push our hips back. Another thing is if you're feeling some pinchiness in your hips, then what you can do is take a rolled up yoga mat or something like this, like a towel or maybe even a foam roller, and just put it right here. And that will give you still a reference to set your hips into, but will be less overall flexion of your hips. So you can sit there and then breathe, and then you can place your elbows on the ground if you wanted to, and just make sure you still have this curve in your spine right here.